Hello, I'm Nadia Jordana, and you're watching Where Women Talk. Our guest today is Jaqueline Norwood-Hall. She is a children's writer, and she's going to be telling us all about the Self-Esteem Dream Team. Let's go talk to Jackie and find out what that's all about. Welcome to the show, Jaqueline.
Thank you so much for having me, Nadia. How are you?
I'm good, and I'm glad you could be here on the program today. We're going to talk about your book writing, and one of the things I wanted to know, I was visiting your website. Tell me about the Self-Esteem Dream Team.
Well, the Self-Esteem Dream Team is a group of young people who have faced challenges in life. And in the books that I have written, those challenges are addressed and they come together and they overcome some of those challenges. For instance, in one of my books, Esther being the Queen of Self-Esteem, some of the challenges that she happens to face is she's bullied. And part of the reason she's bullied is because she is poor, for lack of a better word. She's poor. And so the bully in the story, his name is Jester Mean, and he takes every occasion to just take a pot shot at her, and it makes her feel some type of way about herself. And with the help of her Uncle Morty, she begins to see that the queen in her is so much greater than the teasing of Jester Mean. And he begins to let her know, you know what, Esther Bean, you are a queen, and whatever is inside, it should be reflected on the outside. And so with the help of her Uncle Morty, she begins to build this positive light, this positive vibe, this positive energy, and attracts to herself the perfect type of friends. And so she's one of the members of the Self-Esteem Dream Team. Ultimately, Jester does come on board and becomes a part of the Self-Esteem Dream Team as well, which is great because a lot of times we often look at bullies in a bad light, and their behavior is not positive. But sometimes we have to peel back the layers and find out what's going on with the bully. Why do bullies bully? And so in the prequel, the second book that I wrote, Jester Mean Comes Clean, he's part of the Self-Esteem Dream Team. And you look and you find out what on earth is the reason behind him bullying. And so it's such a magnificent story. And then of course, the third member of our now ever growing Self-Esteem Dream Team is now Savannah Pearl. And Savannah Pearl, because she faces the challenges of colorism within the home, and then also she faces the challenge of being made fun of because of the darkness of her skin. She has to overcome that, and through the help of her wise grandmother, Hattie, she basically begins to not only accept her skin color, but embrace that of other people as well and see the sweetness in the chocolate of all shades of skin.
That is so nice. I love the names of your characters, and I like the rhyme that pops up through there. You were, as a young person, as a child, were interested in Dr. Seuss and the Bernstein Bears. Tell me a little bit about those early inspirations.
Well, you know what? I remember my third grade teacher, Miss West. She made it so inviting for story time. I love story time. And so she would have us sit down, crisscross applesauce, and she would read books. And my favorite books that she would read would be Dr. Seuss books, and then of course the Bernstein Bears. Well, with Dr. Seuss, I love the rhyming style. He just made it so fun. He made it so quirky, and it didn't even have to make sense. You had thing one and thing two and all of those different things. But then with the Bernstein Bears, the reason why I identified with them was not only because of their skin color, because at the time that I was growing up, it wasn't readily available for children of color to see characters that reflected them. And so I identified with the Berenstein Bears. They looked like my family. And some of the lessons that we were taught from those books mirrored some of the lessons that I could take home and take back with my own family. So I fell in love with them both. And I would honestly say that my writing style for my children's books definitely reflects a little mirror of both of those.
That is fantastic. And I wouldn't have thought of that, but sure, that all makes sense. And it sure formed your inspiration. Did you plan, hope, or dream to be a writer or an entrepreneur when you were young?
You know, when I was younger, I honestly thought about law school. I thought about being a lawyer. I thought about representing those who needed to be represented. God had a different plan, I will say. And I think I do show up in that case almost, in that way, rather, that I represent those who are not represented in writing with the stories that I create. I show the stories of those who are not represented as much, or their stories. You know, some of the books that I've written not only mirror some of my stories and some of my struggles, but also those that I've heard about, or some things that I may see that need to be addressed. I can actually represent others and their stories in the books that I do write.
I think that is amazing, and it follows through. You know, you're presenting these books and these stories, inspiring young girls, and that's so important to start with our young people in this world, and girls especially, to give them the inspiration that they can be somebody, they can do something, they can follow a dream. Um, I'm thinking about the children's books and the impression that a lot of people have that writing children's books is an easier and simpler endeavor than writing, let's say, any other kind of book. And that's not really true. I haven't found that to be true in all the children's authors that I know and have talked to. There's almost a science and a formula to putting together a children's book that actually relates to children. It's not just a number of pages and extra illustrations. Can you fill that out a little bit and tell me what some of your process is?
Well, for me, there is no, you know, I wish the process was linear, because it would make it so easy for me. You know, if it were just a straight line, it would be awesome. Sometimes I can hear a conversation and I'll have an idea. Sometimes I can see a situation that's going on, or sometimes I'll take a trip down memory lane. And sometimes it's not always pleasant, because as a youngster, I was teased. I was teased about features, my teeth. I was teased about my head shape. So just all of those things, you know, I bring that to the table. And it's not easy all the time just sitting down and just saying, you know what, okay, I'm going to just write about this, you know, because every time I try to do that, it just doesn't seem to work that way. It's almost like you have to give yourself to just being. And whenever the unction hits, you write. And you might put together a piece here or a piece there. I can't tell you how many stories that I've written where I might just get a little snippet here. So I'll open up a file and start, and then I'll leave it. And then I might get a snippet over here, and it might be a completely different book. And then sometimes the way that it'll flow, it'll all come together at one point. So there's no guaranteed formula. I wish there were. I mean, I see some of other authors, should I say, that say, you know what, the 10 steps, you know, I wish I had this 10-step process. I really don't. It's just, I have to allow myself to be and kind of sit still long enough to do it. and then get lost in my imagination. I think if there is a step, it's just to get lost in your imagination. Become the character that you're writing about. And how would they feel? What would they look like? What would they be wearing? I'm so particular with the illustrator that I work with, who is amazing. She's able to convey everything. I mean, every single minute detail from every one of my books that she's done for me. She's able to portray that and convey that perfectly. Like really, really perfect. I'm telling you, to the shoelace, to the graffiti on a bathroom wall, everything is picture perfect.
It's all about being real, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we only have about a minute and a half left. I'd like to hear you talk to the young girls who might get the opportunity to watch this show for a little inspiration.
Well, what I would say to all of the young ladies, and I will include the young men as well into this, that sometimes you'll find the hardest thing growing up is just learning to be yourself. Sometimes it's easier to hide your brightness and to hide who you are amongst people who are similar. But I will leave this with you. When you go to the zoo, you might have a favorite animal, and you might really want to visit that animal at the zoo. But the zoo is created so that you can enjoy the beauty of all of the different creatures. And so appreciate what you bring to the table. Appreciate your differences. Appreciate that and stand out. Don't be afraid to be who you are. Don't be afraid to be who you
Well,
are.
that is so spot on, Jaqueline. I am so glad you could be on the show today. This was really enlightening. And I do hope there are young people watching today that can be inspired by hearing about your story and the words of wisdom you have shared. And for the rest of you watching us today, you're watching Where Women Talk. We'll see you next time.